Started. You can see now they all get a notification that this is live. Philip, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you're at? And then, is it pronounced Lika? Lika?
Yes.
Okay, Lika. All right. So then once Philip is done, you can introduce yourself too.
Well, I'm Philip Cummings. I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and I teach 6th grade ELA with primarily a reading focus. We're a team, me and the other ELA teacher, but I focus on 6th grade reading, and I teach at an independent school, all-boys school.
Thank you. Go ahead, Lika.
Okay, hi. I'm Lika DeGroat. I teach in Spirit Lake. I'm first grade teacher.
All right. So what we had you guys come here to do is both of you do a really good job of getting your classrooms out to the world, and can talk a little bit about bringing those classrooms back in. We've been talking about connections, collaboration, and sharing. And then we just wrapped up kind of discussion on a little bit of the how-to, everything from Mystery Skype to Hangouts to blogging and all of that kind of stuff. So, Lika, do you want to start just talking about how you connect your classroom with the world and some of the things that you do?
Okay. I do use a lot of tools. So we connect with other classes with Google Hangouts. Each of my students has their own blog. And also we use class Twitter. So according to what my purpose for learning is, we change the platform. And Google Hangout, we do a lot of reading fluency practice, readers theater, mystery number Skype, or Google Hangout. Also, I like using Google Hangout for small group setting too. So it's once kids learn how to play games and things, then they can just we can set up a center. So 2 or 3 kids at the time, they're just connecting with other classes. Blogging, my students use it somewhat like a digital portfolio. So every time they create something in the classroom, they share that on their own blog. We had a class in Canada, they were blogging buddies. So each child had a buddy in the other class. So they get to visit each other's blog and comment and then build a communication there. Twitter, we share the classroom happenings. Also, I like using hashtags to create learning community for the kids. So we do math talks. I usually post an open-ended question, and kids answer those questions throughout the week, so kids can learn from each other. We've done Twitter book club before. Other classes too, read the same book, and we post our thoughts and ideas.
Really quick, 2 quick follow-ups, because we were kind of talking about the mystery number Skype, and then talk a little bit about where do you get content with your blog buddies?
Okay, I don't know if I caught all your questions, but I heard about finding the collaborators. Is that
when your students do blog buddies, what is it that they write about back and forth?
Whatever they want to share. Sometimes I do assign, or whatever they create in the classroom, I want them to post there. But some kids write about the weekend, some kids write about what happened at recess. I leave it up to them.
And then the one other follow-up that I have before we jump over to Philip is we talked a little bit about mystery number Skype.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you do it with your students?
Okay, I teach first grade, so we use numbers between 1 and 120, and one class asks a series of yes or no questions. So it could be, is it larger than 50? And the other class would answer yes or no until we narrow it down and guess the number. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect. Philip, will you jump in and talk a little bit about how you have your students connect and collaborate?
Sure. Couple of different things that we do just somewhat to just promote what we're doing and to share our learning. I do have a class Twitter account that's separate from my personal account, and I have a chief tweeting officer, which is a role that rotates among the kids, and we practiced at the beginning of the year what would be an appropriate tweet, what are the types of things we could tweet, that type of thing, and so then the students, when it's their turn, I have a tablet that is designated for that, and they'll come in and get it, and they just kind of take care of that on its own. I have a chief Instagram officer also who takes pictures of what's happening in class, puts a caption on that, and shares those things out. We have done the Global Read Aloud, where we have connected with 2 or 3 other classes somewhere in the world to read the same novel at the same time, and then used Edmodo, which kind of like Facebook Classroom would be the way I would describe Edmodo, for our students to go in and have conversations about those texts with those students, and it's kind of asynchronous. They can go in and post their questions and their responses, and sometimes we'll prompt them. We want everybody to write about a connection they made in this particular text, and at other times we just leave it be to them. But it's kind of neat that our kids will go in and make some comments early in the morning for us, and then 2 or 3 hours later, some kids in maybe British Columbia or somewhere else would chime in. We have actually done book circles with a class in North Carolina and also a class in Australia at the same time, which was pretty interesting. We read the book Wonder together, and we would pose questions, and they would write and blogs about those types of things, and we actually did a Google Hangout, all 3 classes together at the same time, finding out about what their schools were like. We're an independent school, private school. The school in North Carolina was a public school, but a year-round school, so our kids didn't know anything about it, what a year-round school was like. And then the school in Australia, with the reverse or the flipping of the seasons, and playing sports. They played rugby and they were playing a lot of sports our kids didn't know anything about. They loved that and thought that was the coolest thing ever, getting to have those conversations. We've used blogs. We've used the Comments for Kids hashtag to try to raise some awareness of what we've written and what we've shared to try to build a more authentic audience. This year we are using a different tool. I've always used KidBlog. This year we're actually using WriteAbout, and one of the things I'm excited about in WriteAbout is that there are little communities already set up in WriteAbout. So if a kid wants to blog about Minecraft and things he's doing in Minecraft, there's already a Minecraft group that he can share his posts to, and they're all kids that are interested in that, or there might be kids interested in football or whatever it might be. So I'm pretty excited about bringing that tool in this year to play with it and see what happens with it. So that's just a few things. I could talk for a while.
Well, I'm going to ask you to keep talking. How is this different in both, what you do, Philip, and how your kids perceive it? Like, you talk about all these different things that you're having your kids do. What's the point of doing it all? Why do you do it?
I think the biggest thing that I love about it, I guess is what I would say, is that I feel like the walls of my classroom have kind of been removed. That first of all, my students are understanding that we do live in a world that is bigger than Memphis, and certainly bigger than their privilege. And And so that's kind of a neat thing. I love that they make some connections with people around the world from time to time, but that they also get a sense that, you know, they have a voice in all of this. They have a say, that what they say and do matters beyond what the teacher might say or think about it. They get pushback at times, feedback at times. They realize that sometimes the way you communicate something with the people that you're friends with and that you're neighbors with makes no sense when it goes outside those walls and people don't use your lingo, your slang, your terminology. So I think that's really a good thing, a good lesson to learn. But I think one of the things I've seen in my students is a different interest level. I think sometimes they work harder on things that they know that other people are going to see than they do for me. I have students that are certainly motivated by wanting to please the teacher, definitely. But I also have some that honestly couldn't care less what I say, but when they think that somebody else might read it or that it's going to be shared with the world, it has a newfound importance for them. So, is that kind of what you were wanting, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. Lika, the same question to you. From a first grade level, why do you spend the time on it to get started? What benefit do you see in the classroom?
Yeah, I think I agree with Philip. We can provide that authentic audience. You know, it's not just me. They're trying to communicate. And at our level, you know, their world, 6-year-olds' worlds are so small, and they can't really think outside. And that empathy that they have to learn, you know, how would they think or how would they view you from outside of the classroom? Those are huge lessons, you know, and also communication. You know, it's a hard thing to do when you're trying to talk to somebody on Google Hangout. You can't just say whatever that's on your mind. You have to listen. You have to wait, take turns. You know, if you are not paying attention, you won't be able to join the conversation. So all those real life practice experiences, you know, we try to teach it within the classroom, but when we connect, we just actually get to use those skills and put them into practice. And then again, the excitement is just so great at the beginning, but we connect so much. You know, we have weekly Google Hangout sessions, and pretty soon that connecting becomes part of their learning life. You know, that's their tool, that's what they do. Just like, you know, as a professional, when we build RPLN online, that's how they start learning. But I think that's very 21st century skills. That's how adults learn, so why not first graders do that too?
Do you guys have questions for either one of them? Do either of you, before we let you go, and I really truly appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to join us, any other last bit of words of wisdom for us? Philip, do you have anything?
Well, one thing that I would say, this has not been my personal thing that I've done in my class, but I have a person that I've connected with and become pretty good friends with who is a high school science teacher. And one of the things I've been really impressed with what he has done with Twitter is he has really connected his high school students with scientists, professional scientists, and they do a lot of Twitter chatting with scientists. And it's really cool that he's able to bring the experts in the field into his classroom through that. And he's built some really incredible relationships from that. We actually, Sharon Draper is an author that we've Skyped. Actually, I think we Google Hangout, but we did a Google Hangout with her. And so my kids were actually not only able to read a book, but then be have a conversation with the person that wrote it, which was pretty powerful. So I think that's really a neat thing that kind of has been a recent thing that's come to education because of social media and some of these 2.0, 3.0 tools.
Lika, any last words for us?
Yeah, I think it's a great, powerful tool that anybody can use. So I don't think there is age limit, or just because they're 6, I think we can still give them the voice and express themselves. So yeah, I would love to connect with your teachers.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you both for joining in. We do really appreciate it. I know I mentioned, Lika, you've been presenting all afternoon, so I'm sure the first thing you want to do is go talk some more about all the great. All right, I'm going to click stop broadcast here. Just